So I know I've said before that I'm done with Kaiserreich since the official canon ends in 1936, but I thought about making a hypothetical scenario of what could happen. And then I remembered a while ago my friend Skylar Weston, who's a moderator of my Discord that you should go join, had presented me with a timeline for a mod he's working on called A Modern Reich, and he had asked me to make a video on it. Basically, it's Millennium Dawn for Kaiserreich. Even though by the look of their Discord it seems kinda dead, I still want to credit them for making this timeline. Also, I'm kinda gonna skip over or modify parts of the lore about Italy and China, since my source was written before the new lore had been announced. So 1936, which is the start of the game, starts off with Alexander Kerensky, who is president of Russia, kicking the can, and then the German economy pulling a Herbert Hoover's presidency and crashing. Like our timeline, US in 2008, having the world's largest superpower have an economic collapse kinda fucks over the rest of the world. All the syndicalist countries, who before this in a gross oversimplification, were run by a bunch of big workers' unions, had, not wanting to miss out on screwing themselves over, elect totalists. Totalists are basically like our timeline's Stalinists. So all you really need to know is because of this, Oswald Mosley will throw you into a re-education camp for not liking and subscribing. Canada sees this and is like, oh shit, they might try to invade us now, so let's just beat up Denmark and take their colonies to make ourselves feel better. Down south in the US, Huey Long gets elected and takes office in 1937. He immediately sets off to start his populist reforms. Go watch the video I made about him in our timeline to learn what he was all about. Anyhow, he pisses off everyone by refusing to compromise and sending his Minutemen militia, no, the other kind, to preserve the peace in places like the syndicalist-leaning north. Still, as far as instability goes, Austria-Hungary has the US beat when it completely disintegrates after the Second Ostgleich utterly fails. So basically Hungary declares war on Austria, and then Germany decides to help them out by also invading the Austrian region and taking it for itself. So the rest of the empire is basically gobbled up by other nations of the area. Meanwhile in Russia, Sakhanov takes control and goes full Nazi, national populist. Back in America, the nation once again goes into civil war after everyone got mad at Huey Long. In the north, we have the syndicalist CSA led by Jack Reed. In the south, the AUS led by Huey Long, and in the Midwest, the federal government led by General MacArthur, plus a neutral Pacific states, and everyone's favorite rump empire, temporarily, takes over New England and Alaska. Speaking of rump empires, National France brings back the Napoleonic dynasty. Canada also joins in on this monarchist fun when King Edward declares direct rule. Quebec isn't very happy about that. In 1938, the Bourbons win the elections in Spain and prevent a civil war. So they elect Francisco Franco as president. One of the first things he does is join the Middle Europa. The Fourth Balkan War begins later that year, and it ends with Bulgaria getting fucked by the Belgrade Pact. Over in Britain, Oswald Mosley tries to seize control of the country, but T.E. Lawrence swoops in last minute and saves the day, then promptly restores the United Kingdom. Losing their main ally still doesn't stop the French, however, as they force the Swiss to give up the Romandy region. Salty that no one came to the rescue, the Swiss began to fall into a national populist regime. By the start of 1939, the American Union state ends up winning the American Civil War, with some help from Germany. Despite the German assistance, they don't join the Middle Europa and declare neutrality in all conflicts. But despite that, they along with Germany still began to supply Confederationist rebels in Canada. Later that year, Persia, Hashemite Arabia, and Egypt decided to gangbang the Ottoman Empire, which at this point was like the rotting corpse of Europe. Not to mention a bunch of areas simultaneously declare independence from the Ottomans. To finish this episode with a bang, in July of 1939, the Commune of France demands Alsace-Lorraine from the German Empire. Kaiser Willy is like, fuck that, and bam, Weltkrieg 2. What happens next? Well, you gotta wait for the next part. But you can still go play Kaiserreich for Hoi 4, link to the workshop in the description. Thanks to Patreon Skylar Weston and Helipilot.